It's been almost a week since one of the biggest sports transactions in U.S. history made headlines. A jaw-dropping deal that crossed the $6 billion mark. But while that figure alone is enough to raise eyebrows, the ripple effects could hit closer to home for Boston Celtics fans. The burning question right now is whether this massive move will impact the current starting lineup that has carried the hopes of an entire city. Jrue Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kristaps Porzingis, a lineup that feels like an all-star team, have delivered nothing short of greatness. But can they stay together? And more importantly, can they continue chasing a championship next season without having to make painful sacrifices? Now let's be honest. These last 2 seasons have been nothing short of thrilling for Celtics fans. We've seen highlight reel performances, deep playoff runs, and the kind of basketball that gets your heart racing. But here's the thing. Success in the NBA isn't just about what happens on the court. It's also about what goes down in the front office, especially now as the league edges closer to a new collective bargaining agreement for the 2025 season. And according to some analysts, the new salary cap landscape is going to make it much harder for super teams like the Celtics to keep all their stars under one roof. So, where does that leave Boston? Right now, the NBA has informed teams that the salary cap for next season is projected to go up by about 10%. That's good news on the surface. But there's a catch, and it's called the second tax apron. If a team goes over this threshold for 2 consecutive seasons, the penalties start stacking up. We're talking about losing future draft picks, restricted access to sign-in trade opportunities, and even limits on signing players mid-season. And yes, the Celtics are already above that second apron, to the tune of roughly $23 million. That's not just a small overstep. That's way over the line, and it forces the franchise to make some very tough decisions. Currently, when you look at Boston's cap sheet, they've committed around $225 million to their roster. That includes not only the starting 5, but also key rotation players like Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, and veteran Al Horford. That's a lot of money locked in. And for a team already operating above the second apron, it means trimming the fat isn't optional, it's mandatory. This was always expected when you stack your roster with 5 legit stars, 2 of whom are among the highest paid players in the league. It also explains why no other team in the NBA has tried to copy Boston's model. It's just not financially sustainable for most franchises under these new rules. As we look ahead to next season, the big question becomes, who stays and who goes? The reality is, if Boston wants to maintain flexibility and avoid long-term penalties, someone might have to be moved. And let's be clear, we're not talking about fringe players. We're talking about legitimate, household names. That's where the uneasiness creeps in for fans. After all, when you're this close to winning a championship or repeating as champions, the last thing you want is to tear apart the core that got you there. 2 names that keep coming up in trade talks are Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. Both are incredibly valuable. Both have unique skill sets that are vital to Boston's identity. And yet, both might be the odd men out if the team needs to free up salary. Jrue is on the wrong side of 30 and has seen a bit of a dip in production this season. Porzingis, while dominant when healthy, has a contract that doesn't extend beyond 2026 and a history of injuries that make any long-term commitment a gamble. So, the front office is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do you gamble on health and veteran presence? Or do you start preparing for the future by getting younger, cheaper, and more flexible under the cap? Let's say, hypothetically, that the Celtics decide to trade one of them. What would that mean for the team's identity? Would they still be the same defensive juggernaut? Would Tatum and Brown carry even more of the load? Would the bench be deep enough to make up for the loss of a starter? These are all real questions that fans and analysts are asking right now. And with the introduction of a new ownership group, you better believe that financial strategy is going to be top of mind heading into the offseason. But here's the twist. Just because the Celtics are facing financial pressure doesn't mean they're out of the running for a big splash. In fact, freeing up cap space might be the very move that puts them in a position to acquire another star. And yes, we're about to go there, Kevin Durant. That name just doesn't seem to go away, does it? Every offseason since 2019, there's been at least one rumor linking KD to Boston. And here we are again. Some believe that Durant, who is reportedly unhappy in Phoenix, could be eyeing a move back to the East Coast. There have been whispers, hints, and speculative reports suggesting Boston as a potential landing spot. Now let's be real. There's no hard evidence that Boston is pursuing Durant, nor that he wants to play there. But when you have a generational talent possibly on the market and a front office under pressure to either win now or restructure, you can't ignore the smoke. Because sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. But think about it. Would it even make sense? Durant is earning over $54 million annually through 2026. That's more than what Boston is already paying Brown or Tatum. Adding that kind of contract would require a massive overhaul. You'd have to trade away at least one max player, gut the roster depth, and find a way to stay under the second apron. It's a nearly impossible puzzle to solve, unless you're willing to break the team apart completely. Are the Celtics really ready to take that leap? Some believe Durant's move to Golden State back in the day is proof that he would join a team already stacked. But things are different now. The backlash he faced during that time was brutal. Snake, ring chaser, you name it. Would he really want to go through that all over again with Boston, especially if they're already coming off a title win? It's hard to imagine. But then again, this is the NBA, where loyalty is rare and superstars move faster than trade rumors. And then there's the ownership situation. The previous front office built a masterpiece, a near-perfect roster designed to chase banner number 18. They managed to retain 13 out of the 15 players from last season, a rare feat in today's league. But with new leadership at the helm, there's no telling if the same vision will carry forward. Will they be just as committed to keeping the core intact, or will they try to leave their own mark with a bold move, like trading for KD? We've got just 10 games left in the regular season. The playoffs are right around the corner. And yet, somehow, we're already talking about tearing things down or making blockbuster trades. That tells you everything about how quickly things change in this league. One moment you're riding high, dreaming of back-to-back championships. The next, you're worrying about tax penalties, aging contracts, and cap flexibility. So what does that leave us now? There's no clear path forward. There's no perfect plan. But one thing's for sure. The Celtics are walking a financial tightrope. And with the pressure of maintaining a winning roster while staying under the league's new financial restrictions, something's got to give. The only question is, were they willing to sacrifice to keep the dream alive? What makes this even more complicated is the growing divide in the NBA between teams that can afford to go deep into the luxury tax and those that can't. The second tax apron, which now sits just under $28 million above the regular cap, is designed to limit exactly what the Celtics have done, stack a roster with elite talent, and spin their way to contention. It's a way to level the playing field, but it also puts teams like Boston, who've built something special, in a bind. They're not just flirting with the limit, they're miles over it. That puts nearly every mid- and long-term roster decision under a microscope. And let's not forget, the league's front offices aren't just thinking about this year. They're already planning for the summers of 2025 and 2026, when some of the current financial rules kick in even harder. Draft pick penalties, spending restrictions, and the inability to make certain types of trades or signings will all come into play for teams that consistently overspend. Boston, being over that threshold 2 years in a row, is now staring those consequences directly in the face. That's why even if they win a title this season, tough calls are coming. It's just the reality of how the modern NBA works. So if you're Brad Stevens in the Celtics front office, what do you do? Do you push all your chips in one more time, go all in on this core, and chase back-to-back championships no matter the cost? Or do you start making those hard, cold business decisions? The ones that break fans' hearts but protect the franchise long-term? It's the kind of dilemma that separates good management from great management. And with a new ownership group involved, there's added uncertainty about how aggressive or conservative they'll be. And then there's the fan perspective, maybe the most emotional, most honest angle in all of this. How worried are you, as a Celtics fan, that this team, as you know it, might not exist next year? On a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being not at all and 10 being losing sleep every night, where are you at? Because make no mistake, people are already bracing themselves. Even with the team still in the mix for a title, even with the chemistry looking solid, even with that unmistakable hunger in their eyes, the writing is on the wall. This exact version of the Celtics might be nearing its end. And it's not all doom and gloom either. There's still the possibility that Boston pulls off a brilliant pivot. Maybe they trade one high-salary player for two role players who fit better under the new system. Maybe they bet on the development of younger guys, give bigger roles to Pritchard, Hauser, or whoever they bring in via draft or trade. Maybe, just maybe, they even find a way to land another star without completely nuking their roster. There are a lot of moving pieces, but that's the challenge, to keep the dream alive while playing by a new set of rules. Let's circle back to Kevin Durant for a second. Yes, the rumors are fun. Yes, imagining KD in green and white is enough to make your brain melt with possibilities. But let's be real, it's a long shot. The finances barely make sense. The chemistry could be a question mark, and the optics? Well, Boston is already one of the most scrutinized teams in the league. Adding a polarizing figure like Durant into the mix, especially after the team has found such a strong identity, might not be worth the headache. Especially when the team is trying to build something sustainable, something that lasts longer than a single title run. And here's something else to think about. Even if Durant is traded, why would it be to Boston? Other teams have more assets, more cap flexibility, and frankly, more desperation. Boston doesn't need KD. They might want him, sure, but they don't need him the way some other teams do. The Celtics have built something from within, something that actually works. You don't blow that up for the sake of adding another name to the roster, even if that name is Kevin Durant. At the end of the day, Boston's path forward is going to require balance. Not just between offense and defense, or stars and role players, but between ambition and realism, between emotion and strategy, between chasing glory and protecting the future. This season might still end with a parade, with champagne showers, and with banner 18 hanging from the rafters. But even if it does, the questions won't stop. The financial challenges won't disappear. The second apron, the contract crunch, the pressure to maintain, all of it will still be there the morning after the confetti falls. So now the question goes to you. Would you be willing to trade a key player like Drew or Porzingis if it meant keeping the core under the tax threshold and staying competitive in the long run? Or do you believe the Celtics should go all in, deal with the consequences later, and try to run it back with the same group? Would you welcome a blockbuster move like Durant, or would that feel like messing with a good thing? Let me know what you think. This team is on the edge of something special, but what happens next could define the next 5 years of Boston basketball. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In the high-stakes world of the NBA, few players have risen as rapidly or as impressively as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Known for his fluid scoring ability, elite defense, and leadership, the Canadian star has caught the attention of several NBA powerhouses, but none more so than the Boston Celtics. As the 2024 season heats up, whispers around the league suggest the Celtics are intensifying their pursuit of Gilgeous-Alexander, eager to add his dynamic skill set to their already potent roster. Gilgeous-Alexander, fresh off a historic season where he led the Oklahoma City Thunder to their first-ever top seed in the Western Conference, has become one of the most coveted players in the NBA. His ability to score from anywhere on the floor, whether it's a pull-up jumper, a fast-break finish, or a clutch play in the dying seconds, has made him a nightmare for opposing defenses. As of late, he has even put up multiple 50-point games, showcasing an offensive versatility that could complement the Celtics' high-octane game plan. For Boston, the need for a player like Gilgeous-Alexander is becoming more apparent by the day. With Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown already leading the team, the addition of a player who can create his own shot and distribute with equal proficiency would make the Celtics an even more formidable force in the Eastern Conference. His basketball IQ, coupled with his poise in high-pressure situations, could elevate the Celtics to new heights in their quest for an NBA championship. Despite his growing stature in Oklahoma City, the Thunder face a difficult choice. Gilgeous-Alexander's stock is soaring, and while he has helped guide the team to unprecedented success, the possibility of a trade could shake up the NBA landscape. The Celtics, with their wealth of assets, including draft picks and promising young talent, are poised to offer an enticing package that could convince Oklahoma City to part ways with their franchise player. As the trade deadline approaches, all eyes will be on the Celtics' next move. If they manage to secure Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they would not only bolster their chances for immediate championship contention, but also solidify their place as one of the most exciting teams in the league. Fans are eagerly awaiting what promises to be a thrilling offseason, with the potential of one of the NBA's brightest stars donning green and white. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.